September is finally here, and that means we're at the start of the best time of the whole year to be a knitter. We finally get to put away our lightweight yarns and little summer tops and start working with really thick, cosy and warm wools. And with this in mind, I have decided to sit down and have a bit of a think about the sort of things that I'd really like to create this autumn and winter. I've compiled a list of 10 free patterns that I'm hoping could offer you and me some inspiration for the upcoming season. I have listed all of these patterns in pairs around themes or attributes that I think really speak to me of autumn time. I really hope that this provides you with some inspiration about what you could knit this autumn, and if you have any other suggestions at all, do drop them down below so we can all check them out. Alright, let's get to the patterns. The first pair of patterns I'd like to share with you today both fall under the theme of elevated basics. With these two, I was really focusing on more classic and traditional constructions or ideas, but with elements that just make them extra special. I feel like autumn is probably the best time of the year to focus on getting your basics just right, because everybody loves to have one or two perfect sweaters in their wardrobe. Now, the first piece that I want to introduce to you today is called Miles, and it was made by the designer Sanna Fjallland in collaboration with Phil Colana. I love this piece because it's a very oversized sort of traditional polo, and there's something quite androgynous about this sort of construction, but I think that this design adds a little bit of femininity with the use of sheer sections and different textures. The name of this sweater is inspired by an old photograph of Miles Davis, which I think is just very cool and does speak to the laid-back, casual, yet very, very sophisticated look of this jumper. I particularly love the choice of gold buttons for this polo because I think that they really offset the beautiful, moody shade of blue that they've selected for their yarn. Now, this piece is knit up with stripes of two different types of yarn. One is a sort of kid silk and the other is 100% wool. So that's how you get that very subtle variation that creates the stripes. This sweater is available in 4 sizes from an S to an extra large, and it's knit up on really, really tiny 2.5 to 3mm needles. Now on to our second elevated basic, and this is the Sken Sweater by Stein Holgard Johansson. Now, this piece was also created in collaboration with a yarn brand and knits up in sport weight yarn on teensy tiny 2.5 and 3.5mm needles. I was immediately drawn to this piece on Ravelry because I really love the styling of it in this main photograph. The combination of an intricate yet fine knit with a pair of tailored trousers just speaks to what I want to capture with some of my autumn knitting. If you have a look at the close-up here, you can see there is a very subtle zigzag pattern that is worked through the yoke, which just really highlights the beauty of this heathered yarn that they selected for this piece. I think that this could work in so many different colours or textures. It's really down to you what you want to create. I personally would like to make it in a more neutral colour and pair it with some tailored trousers just as they have for the pictures. This sweater comes in a good range of sizes from XXS up to 4XL. Now on to our next pair of knits, which might be the one that I'm actually the most excited about. And these are 2 beautiful colourwork pieces. The first pattern I'd like to introduce you to in this category is this absolutely stunning Saga Cardigan, made by the designer Wench Rolled. The Saga Cardigan is the colourwork piece that probably just shouted autumn to me the most when I was looking through Ravelry. I love how it's full of really lush colourwork details that would have a lot of interest for a more advanced knitter. I think that this piece would work in so many different colours, but I particularly love the ones that they've selected for their example here. These rich reds mixed with kind of moody greys, it's just so beautiful. I'm really excited to use up some of my smaller quantities of yarn and get started on this Saga cardigan. And if you're thinking about making this or any of the other patterns I mentioned today, do get in touch with me. The best place to find me is over on my Instagram, and I would love to see any of you making any of these patterns. The Saga cardigan comes in a good range of sizes from XXS up to 4XL. The second pattern in my colourwork category is by a designer that I've probably mentioned a few times before in some of my other pattern videos, and that is Marie-Amélie Designs with her jumper, which is called the Tamo. The Tamo jumper is knit up with two different yarns held together, one strand of lace and one strand of light fingering, so it's great for everyone who really loves a little bit of fuzzy mohair in their cold weather jumpers. Now, I selected the Tamo jumper because I wanted to give a colourwork option to some of the beginners out there, because the last one was definitely a little bit advanced. I think that this is such a sweet and simple design. It would be a great introduction to colourwork if you haven't tried it before, as you get the chance to practice using two colours at once to make the zigzag around here and around the sleeves. I really like her selection of colours here. As many of you may know, I am a real fan of navy and brown and beige. I think it just looks really good. But I think that this would equally work with maybe a little bit of red thrown in, just for something a little bit more festive. I also really enjoy when designers use mohair in their colourwork pieces. I think that it makes the yarn kind of mesh together really well, and the fuzziness just gives it a different textural feel from your usual colourwork in a fuzzy wool. Now this design, like most of the Marie-Amélie designs, comes in a good range of sizes, from a 91cm bust up to a 162cm bust. Now my next category of jumpers is something a little bit different that I wanted to include for those of you who like to experiment and try new and different customizable things with their knitwear. The designers of both of these jumpers have kindly included several options for how you could customize or change the jumper to suit your desired look. Now the first piece I want to introduce you to is called the Molly by Lolita Duby. While looking for patterns, I was really drawn to the beautiful pictures posted by this designer. I love how she styles this very simple but comfortable looking jumper with a big wide collar. As you can probably tell, I am a fan of big collars. This jumper is knit with fingering weight yarn and lace weight yarn held together, so you could make a nice fuzzy mohair version of it. But if you didn't fancy that, I think it would work equally well with a really nice rustic wool. The thing that's so interesting about this pattern is that it actually gives you options for where you could add your own colourwork design. The designer includes a chart which shows you how the yoke is created, and all you would have to do is fill in your own pattern there and you could create your own customised colourwork jumper. I think that this is such a clever and thoughtful detail that would also really help introduce people to how colourwork designs are made and how you can visualise how a pattern would be formed when you knit it up. I personally might keep this one for a little bit later in the year when I'm thinking about knitting my Christmas jumper. It could be really fun to do a customised sort of Christmas design, but I think equally you could do some beautiful botanical stuff or whatever you want really around the theme of autumn. The Molly jumper comes in an excellent range of sizes for an 80cm to 150cm bust. Now the second of my customisable patterns is the Hokkaido Sweater by Sidsel Grau. I just absolutely adore both of the options that she has gone for here. I think that it looks so lovely with the navy stripes. It does give it a kind of classic nautical look, but it's equally as beautiful as shown here just in the plain brown. And another massive benefit of this jumper is it is knit up in Aran weight yarn, which means it would be a nice and speedy piece to work on if you just want something mindless and relaxing to knit. However, it isn't a completely simple jumper, as the designer has included some elements that just elevate it and make it a little bit more interesting. I really love the longer ribbed collar, which I think is very sophisticated and would help to elongate your neck and make you feel pretty. I really like how this long ribbed section is then also carried through at the wrists and at the bottom with the ribbing. I can really see myself making this in so many colours. I think that it could work for anyone who wants a slightly oversized, comfortable and very chic jumper. And the fact that it's Aran weight just makes it better, because Aran weight is probably my favourite weight of yarn to knit with. This sweater is a top-down construction with some very nice nifty details at the back that just make it look very clean and minimalist and beautiful. Now this piece comes in a slightly more limited 6 sizes for an 85 to 135 centimetre bust. Now my next category features one of the most important things to consider when you're thinking about knitting in autumn, and that is layering. So I've presented 2 options for layering pieces, one vest and one cardigan that could be knit up in so many different colours and textures. The first piece that I want to introduce you to is a lovely little vest called the Tiara Vest by Tang Yong Kim. I was immediately drawn to this design because I have a real love for cabled and textured vests. I just think that they give you so many opportunities to create something that feels classic but also very modern, depending on the textures that you decide to knit with and the colours. I think that this vest would look really great with a slightly oversized light blue shirt underneath, just for something very crisp and cool. It would look equally nice, maybe with a long-sleeved sort of polo neck top. Both options which I think would be comfortable but also very great for when that weather is just kind of in between. This vest is knit up in worsted weight yarn, and they have selected what looks like a really lush, beautiful grey wool. I think that I would like to make this vest probably in grey, but white or another neutral colour would be equally as nice. A navy could also work really well too. Looking closer at the detail of this vest, there are so many elements to give a little bit of excitement to an intermediate knitter. You have what looks like some bobbles, some different cabled sections, and some lovely little zigzags created with pearl stitches. The Tiara Vest comes in a very solid range of sizes, ranging from a 2XS up to a 4XL. Now, since we're talking about layering, I of course had to include a lovely cosy cardigan. And no free pattern video would be complete without an addition from Espace Tricot. And this is their new cardigan called the Macaron Cardigan. This is such a cute, cosy and simple looking piece. It's knit up with 2 strands of yarn held together, so a light fingering and lace weight yarn. Again, another one for you potential mohair lovers out there, but it would probably be just equally as lovely in a wool or an alpaca and something just with a little bit of halo. The Macaron cardigan is knit up on 3mm and 4mm needles, and the yarns held together come to a light fingering weight. Although this is quite a simple construction, the attention to detail here is what really made it stand out for me. I like the fact that it's a cropped fit, which would mean it would look very cool with my high-waisted trousers that I love. I also appreciate how the button band, which is created with ribbing, is quite small and thin, because that just makes the whole piece look a little bit more dainty. Another feature that I enjoy about this cardigan is its raglan construction for the sleeves, because I feel like that's such an easy and effortless way to make the transition, and I also find that the fit of raglan looks really, really good and polished. Overall, this is just a really excellent, simple piece that leaves everything completely open to you about whether you want to experiment with different yarns and textures. It really would look good in basically any colour and makes an ideal addition for when the weather can't make up its mind. The Macaron cardigan comes in a good range of sizes for a 43 to a 68 inch bust. They don't have it in centimetres, but I'll have to try and convert that later. Now we've gone through lots of solid options for lovely fuzzy sweaters that we could make, I wanted to include 2 quintessentially autumn accessories, a scarf and a hat. As with the last 2 patterns, I think that these are essential pieces to have in any autumn transitional wardrobe, but I selected these 2 from Pearl Soho because I enjoyed their use of colour and texture. Now the first of the 2 accessories that I want to share with you is this absolutely stunning Bramble Wrap. As soon as I saw this piece, I just knew I had to make it. I think that this piece is great because it gives you lots of opportunity to combine colours and textures. And as Pearl Soho so often does, they provided you with lots of different colour combinations to give you some inspiration. I really like the simplicity and the elegance of this repeated sort of wave pattern. It doesn't look like it would be too much of a challenge to master, but it will also give you a little bit of interest as you work your way through the repetitions for the scarf. Now this piece is knit up in one of Pearl Soho's 100% silk offerings, which looks absolutely divine, but I think that I would enjoy making it in a soft, maybe alpaca blend, and again in my favourite combination of navy and camel. I would say that this is a solid intermediate project for someone who's looking to make something colourful and playful that will also allow them to master rhythmic repetitions. I really enjoy how Pearl Soho provides very clear and detailed instructions. They also have a really great comment section where you can find lots of tips and questions by fellow knitters. The Bramble Wrap comes in 2 sizes for a scarf or a wrap, and the one shown here is the wrap version, but the smaller scarf version I'm sure would be very cute too. Now the second accessory that I'm including is also from Pearl Soho, and this is called the Far and Wide Hat. I had to include this piece because I just have such a love for stripes, and I think that this gives you so many options to make something that doesn't look handmade at all. It looks like you could have just bought it from a shop. I really like all 3 of the example options that Pearl Soho has knit up here, and I think that it could work in any colour that you like. This piece is knit up in a wool and linen blend on 3.25mm needles, so quite fine, but that's also, I think, how you get such a beautiful and sort of seamless, smooth texture to the hat. This hat, of course, has some elements that I always look for when I'm considering adding a new beanie into my wardrobe, and that is a nice folded brim that looks like it would be really snug and warm, and enough slouch at the back that just kind of gives it a more cool and casual look. This lovely stripy piece comes in a range of sizes for both children and adults, so a great one to keep in mind if you're thinking about knitting someone a quick gift. Thank you so much for sticking around until the end and having a look at all of these lovely patterns that I compiled over the last few days. It's so fun to think about the transition between seasons when you make your own clothes, and I'm just so excited for this autumn and having more time to work on my knitting and really relax and enjoy all of the beautiful things that colder weather brings. I hope that you're as excited as I am and that this video provided you with just a little bit of inspiration for the upcoming season. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye!